Hey, it's Robbie McCarty with Patriot Crawl Space Repairs. In today's video, I want to cover how we actually inspect crawl spaces and how we don't. So the first thing that I want to touch on is there are a lot of scare tactics used by crawl space inspectors, especially with big box sales-oriented crawl space companies. So a couple of the things that are overused a lot and overhyped are air particle tests in crawl spaces. There's one specific company out there that does kind of a quick mold test. And what this is an air particle counter. It can measure mold, it can count dust as air particles. So any crawl space that's vented and dusty, it's going to get a super high reading. It doesn't even mean that there's a mold issue in the crawl space. This company will then tell people, and I hear this multiple times a week, that their crawl space has one of the highest readings for the mold tests that they've ever seen. In a lot of these spaces that I go in, there's no visible mold on the floor joist or pipes or anything. So if someone's saying that they're doing a quick mold test, that's a huge red flag. There's absolutely no universe where that's a viable need to do when you're inspecting a crawl space, unless it's for like final testing for a mold remediation. Another thing that's overused a lot, which can be it can be good, but it can also be misleading, is a moisture test where they stick a moisture meter in the wood in the crawl space. For one, the crawl space moisture or wood moisture can vary throughout the space. For instance, over top of the ductwork is one of the worst spots for mold and moisture damage. But if you stick the meter right near the crawl space door wood, it might be rather dry. Another thing is that time of year. It is a big factor in the moisture reading. So you can have a crawl space with a huge mold and moisture problem primarily in the summer, which is when most of the moisture issues occur. And a company comes in and does a moisture test in the winter. Well, in the winter in Hampton Roads, the humidity gets down to 15%. So you're going to have dry wood in the winter no matter what. So that really doesn't tell the story as to what's going on with that crawl space throughout the year. In reality, a good crawl space inspector can immediately see any problems with that crawl space, regardless of the time of year that they inspect it. So when I go into a crawl space, I can see the ductwork, I can see the insulation, I can see the wood, I can see the ground, the vapor barrier, and the foundation walls. If there's a moisture issue in that space, even if I go in there in the driest part of winter, I can see mold on the wood, mold on the ductwork insulation. I can see water damage and mold in the floor insulation. I can see mold on the PVC pipes. And if there's a groundwater issue, I can see watermarks around the perimeter foundation wall. It's not that complicated. And we can take pictures, videos of all of this and show it to the homeowner. So the testing is really theater and a lot of times a scare tactic to either get homeowners to be fearful of what's going on in the space, or even with termite companies just to cover their butt and say, well, it was dry when I went under there, so that's why I didn't mention mold or moisture. So a good inspector, again, can visually see, photograph everything, and then come up with a diagnosis and a plan as to what that space needs. Testing can be super hit or miss, or even just a fallacy altogether, with the example of the air particle testing. So when I go in to inspect a space, just to recap, I'm looking at the insulation, looking at the ductwork, looking at the ground, the vapor barrier, the pipes, the wood, everything under that space. I'm probing wood to see if there's any rot or moisture damage. I'm looking around that foundation wall, and by doing that, I can tell what's wrong with the space and what it needs going forward to stay in good shape and to maintain the home. Again, I'm Robbie McCarty with Patriot Crawl Space Repairs. If you want me to take a look at your crawl space, see if there's any issues, and if there's anything that we recommend, give us a call, visit our website. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, and make it a great day.